Hi, I'm Guy Lawrence, and you are listening to the Guy Lawrence podcast. If you're enjoying this content and you want to find out more and join me and come further down the rabbit hole, make sure you head back to guylawrence.com.au. Awesome, guys. Enjoy the show. Hello, Facebook. Just trying to steady my stand. Just about to go live with Mr. Matt Omo. Let me just work this out.
Rockstar,
We did it.
you did it. How you going?
I'm good, man. You?
Yeah, good.
Excellent. I've just been playing around with a little setup here. My God, you got some natural sunlight on your face there, mate. You're looking healthy and glowing. Well,
That's it, man.
So let's get on with it. We're
Let's
here
do it.
today to. I realize this is part 5 of the Let Go and Live and Flow series, mate, and all about living an inspired life. Because time is going by very quickly.
Yes.
And,
We're halfway through the year already, eh?
yeah, exactly. And do you feel inspired? That's for this conversation right now. That's probably the most critical point that we could discuss.
Of course. I'm always inspired when I see your face, mate.
Thanks,
Selling
man.
out
Thank you.
retreats, doing all these crazy things, like kicking my work up a notch, just making me step up a bit. So for sure.
No, it's good, and just for everyone listening to this, because obviously this will be made as a podcast as well, and this topic of conversation has come up for us, and due partly because of both our August retreats, which we haven't done yet, have sold out, and for myself personally, there's been a little bit of reflection and gratitude to sort of see the dream come alive, and us combine forces to bring this work and have such impact. And for me, for such a long time, it's been more of a vision than a reality, and being able to honor that and find these moments of inspiration, to let it unfold and lean in enough to trust the process, right? So you and I agreed that would make a great conversation and share with us and how we draw from inspiration, how we get there, and what we do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's really kind of how I find myself where I'm at doing the work that I do. It's through inspiration. It was nothing that I actually could have studied or thought up. It just evolved over time from just keep dropping in and following what feels good. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
can I ask you a question then to get the ball rolling?
let's do it.
What does inspiration mean to you? Like, how would you define inspiration or inspire?
Just go right to the deep questions, don't you?
Straight in, mate.
Don't pull any punches, guy.
I can sit back there and just listen to you. Oh, I'm really intrigued to know what he's going to answer here.
That's it. I thought you were going to start this one off. Inspiration. So, inspiration is living from a place where you're aligned with your spirit, with your source, with a higher consciousness than what your everyday mind can manufacture. I think for me, it's about moving into that place of the unknown, and this is what I think gets in the way for a lot of people. They say, I want to live an inspired life. I want to live more on purpose, and the place of inspiration happens in the unknown. That's the only place that imagination and creativity can emerge, because as soon as you know it, then that's what it is. So there's no more room for inspiration or creativity. So to me, it's about inspiration is about living creatively, living from a place of the unknown, and creating a space for this divine consciousness, this flow state, this like the place beyond what we can articulate to emerge into form. And so it's like it's a flow into form is what I always relate it to. And yeah, so
Do you think then it's like turning on the almost like turning on the tap more to allow that flow to come through more? Is that what you would articulate it as then?
I'd say clearing the noise. I don't know that you need to turn a tap on. I think this is one of the things that I find a lot in a lot of the personal development stuff, helps spiritual circles and things, is like, oh, you've got to open more to this higher consciousness. You've got to create more flow and more spirit. It's like, well, you just got to get out of the way, is what I find. We've got so much noise on the line. It's like trying to listen to a lullaby when you've got death metal jamming in your brain. It's like it just doesn't. It's not conducive. So it's like finding that space and to realize that the largest part of ourselves is actually this source, is this flow. It's the very small fragmented part of ourselves that we tend to identify with, that then is what we then lead our choices and our actions from, that create the behavior that then become the life that we lead. And it should be the other way around, that we start to connect with the larger part of ourselves, which is always in there anyway. So it's listening to the more subtle, peaceful, lower tones of who we are, which is the greater part of who we are.
I think as well.
Think?
But what you said there, I think it can be hard for a lot of us people to wrap our heads around, and how we see ourselves in the first place. That if from an energetic perspective, if there is elements of us that are more expansive than just the physical, what we see right now, and then there's a continual flow state coming through that, which is the very life force of us and that essence of us. But we have spent so much time with our awareness and our senses, because that's how we perceive the world. From an external standpoint, everything input, input. Like, how many moments do we have to actually develop a relationship with that more expanded part of ourselves, if we can continually looking at a screen, continually coming from a place of fear or worry, because we have responsibilities. Like, life is tough, there's no doubt about it. And I think, how do we articulate that? And for me, I never really even assumed that there was a greater aspect of myself for a long time either. I just, what I saw, what I felt, and what I saw was everything was through just if I could touch, smell, or taste it. Like, I didn't realize I could turn that awareness and start to listen to those subtleties that you talk about. Turn off the death metal, to listen to the lullaby within inside. But that's a difficult place to go, don't you think? Because quite often that means we have to start facing our own feelings and our own things that we might not have actually looked at in the first place. And hence why we never end up tapping into inspiration. I mean, what really excites me even with the retreats and why this work is pivotal is that having people for 3 days, including ourselves, because it's going to be, this work affects us just as much as to the people we're delivering it to when we're there, right? But being able to remove ourselves from the noise, from the everyday situations, from all the things that keep reaffirming of who you think you are. And the moment we can take ourselves from that and create a different environment and place to explore this and explore those depths, then I think as we connect more, inspiration comes from that.
Absolutely. It's creating the space, creating space for that to emerge. Absolutely.
When you define inspiration as well, I don't want to paint the picture. Like, are you just like floating around on cloud nine every day? I'm inspired.
No, inspired. I think inspiration sneaks up on you. It's when I'm doing the things that I'm just really, when you do things that you lose track of time, and you just get caught up in the experience so much. It's like, in those places, that's when inspiration hits me. It's kind of like when I'm just driving, or when I'm in the shower, or at the beach, or just there's just moments, and I've got piles and piles of journals in my closet, and like scraps of paper and things, and my phone's just full of notes that just like one thought as I'm trying to drive. It's like these things just drop in, and you got to start honoring it. You got to start acknowledging it, and then that acknowledgement, then it starts to move through. But it happens between, you're not on all the time. I think more than not, I'm not on, and it's like and it's a struggle, and it's like finding, having the practices, having the techniques, having the opportunities to to allow it to emerge. And it's like, yeah, it's fleeting.
It's
I think it's
fleeting.
very
It's
fleeting.
funny. I had a chuckle to myself earlier thinking about this
Mm.
conversation today, and I thought, wow, if a video camera was following me around now, the day in the life of a guy, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that inspiring. They'd be like,
No.
What's this guy doing? Like he's just wandering around aimlessly. He makes a cup of tea, sits down, you know." And
Yeah.
it'd be like, "Oh, that's not very inspiring at all." But
Yeah.
but the point I want to make is that I think I'm getting good at the very things you say, that these moments of inspiration and things start to come in, because I do feel quite congruent these days with my mission, my heart, my head, and who I am, and my identity, and you know, all those things together feels sharp. But when moments come in, I really pay attention to the things that do come in, and it's almost I'm allowed to keep all those distractions out. So when I pull the trigger on something or act upon something, it tends to have more weight, and it can be more
Mm.
effective, and it has a much larger impact on, I guess, my growth, my progress. So it almost helps me, because we have finite choices. You know,
Mm.
we can keep ourselves busy all day with nothing that's effective,
Mm.
or not taking you further. So it's almost like, as I've gotten clearer on where I'm going, what it is I want to do, and how I want to impact my own life and other people's lives and so forth, I can then really start to tune in and just make weighted decisions that I know are coming from that inspired place, that's allowing me to move forward. So from the outside looking in, it might look, wow, you know, you guys are really doing great things and blah blah blah. But then it's like, from my point of view, it's like, oh, you know, I just do my thing.
Mm.
But I honor that, and like you said, it's really important, really important.
Mm.
I've got another question for you.
Bring it.
Okay, so one of the most common problems I hear and I see, especially with the podcast as well, and people reaching out to me and thank me, is that we feel confined, we can feel stuck, we can feel not on purpose.
Mm.
But then with that feeling, we then don't know where to go with that. So we can keep that perpetual loop of feeling stuck, you
Mm.
know? And it's like, well, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what my purpose is. I don't know how I can get inspired to be inspired about something when I feel like this.
Mm.
How do you how do you move from that into
Mm.
inspiration?
From stuck into flow,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's where I know I'm feeling stuck right now. um, now that's where you gotta kind of, it's like we burrow in, and I'm very good at this, at burrowing into to these thought burrows. You know, it's like you start to, I have these downward spirals that I get into, and it's like something happens, and then I make a story out of it, and then that story becomes even more in depth and more restrictive, and then I get really like kind of in this kind of confined place within myself, and it's like I just kind of burrow down, and it's because I've identified with some sort of scenario and story. And it's like when I can find ways to actually disidentify with that story, with that identity, and start to reclaim that identity of that expanded place through, you know, it's opening the body, it's opening the breath, it's opening the mind, you know, releasing the chatter. It's, you know, through vocalizing, expressing, you know, there's many different practices that I have that I work with, you know, getting out, moving my body, doing exercise, getting out into the sun, into nature, and starting to relate to these places in the world and in myself that is beyond the restrictive, separated place that I tend to burrow into. That's when I
Yeah.
find myself having this ability then to start to move. And it's like, it it's this attachment to these ideas. I think it's like people, we hear all this stuff about living on purpose and to find your purpose, and um, I think that it's it's just in that statement, it's in that idea of that we each have this purpose that we get caught up, because I don't believe that we actually do have a purpose other than that we are actually just needing to express that which inspires us. That is the basis of everything. And if you're not doing things that are inspiring you, things that are just like exciting to you, and then allowing that to express out of you, then you're not going to get into that momentum. And it's like you're going to be sitting here in this struggle and strife, and trying to think your way into, well, what is it? I don't know what it is. Well, you don't. And that's the thing, is that you're never going to know what it is. Like, I still don't know what my purpose is. All I know is that I've just leaned into things that have felt good, and then started exploring it. And then through that exploration, then opportunities present themselves. And then I move on those opportunities that then open into more ways to express the things that are inspiring to me. And then it starts to evolve into, like, I've created this whole career of banging a fucking gong. Oh, I shouldn't have sworn. Banging a gong, right? And I couldn't have thought my way into that. And I couldn't have, and the understanding of how that impacts people, and the way that sound works, and the way that breath works, and all these things have evolved out of me actually just getting into life, and being in life, and being active at the things that are exciting to me.
Yeah, right.
So
Yes,
I think
it's almost like what you're saying then. It's almost like trying to move away, that finding our purpose is like a finite goal, because then if I find my purpose, I'm going to be happy, right?
That's it. There's no goal. There's no end point. You're never going to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to break that down even more, if you're willing to look at the areas maybe that are not inspiring in your life, and start creating things and activities and moments that is going to create inspiration in your life, where you start to becoming in that flow state, and just being almost like a child again, where you're just in the moment, loving every second of it. Inspiration's coming from that, and then we gain momentum with all these inspired moments that's going to lead to greater inspiration in our lives, that we can also lean into and act upon, that could actually change the trajectory of our life if we're willing to listen to and honor those moments that are coming through.
Absolutely. That's it.
Interesting. I know I've never, it's funny how you say things just to even get it out. I know Dr. John DeMartini, who I had on the podcast a few months back, actually talked about it's actually living in alignment with your highest values. And if you can identify your highest values of what you truly value in the essence of you, then that is actually being on purpose and aligning to those, and then sort of letting go of the other things, which I find fascinating as well. And another subtle trap is that we start comparing ourselves with everyone else around us, because quite often we are making unconscious decisions to fit in, so we don't feel isolated. And then if we're starting to compare ourselves to other people, then whether it be how much money they're in, or what they're doing, or whatever, or their jobs, or the relationships they have, and it could be anything. And in that comparison, they are sort of living from their perceptions of the world and their record and what they value, but then we're deeming our values on how we should be by comparing ourselves to someone else, and that could be completely misaligned to what's actually going on from our heart and from that very essence that flows through us, the very life that makes us uniquely us.
That's it. Where does that comparison come in from? Like, why are we comparing? I think is a deeper question, and to answer that, I think that it's a lack of trust in ourselves, a lack of trust of ourselves, and a lack of awareness of who we are, and that and that stems from actually being in a place where you are starting to listen and be present with what's going on inside of you, because you aren't anywhere else other than there. And so taking that lens and bringing it, the mirror, and flipping it around and looking inside, and then starting to understand yourself, who you are, that's when your values can then be articulated, and then starting to trust that, well, this is who I am, and that I am enough. There's that enoughness that always comes through the work I see in people, and this, I think that also then pushes you into this having to do something or be something and have a purpose, so that you can then be valued or have a value, instead of realizing that actual just being in your life and breathing air through your body and your mind is enough. Like, you know, it's actually critical that the uniqueness that you are is required to be here, in this reality, and that if you weren't here as this form right now, that then this reality would not exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
like, yeah.
no, it's interesting because if it is a lack of awareness of the self,
Hmm.
then ultimately that's where we need to start, is broadening that awareness.
Exactly.
And I always think, like, I've asked so many different, numerous scientists and the people that study consciousness, thus itself, and physicists, and go, well, what is it? Consciousness. And
Hmm. Hmm.
everyone has said consciousness is an awareness.
Hmm.
So it's almost an evolution of that. And
An
how do we
evolution
do?
of awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And how do we start to become more aware of who and get to the truth of who we really are is the bigger
Hmm.
question. And I think to do that, that's where the answers always start to lie in the silence, and
Hmm.
actually start to, turn off that outward noise,
Hmm.
and start to connect back to that energy. Because it's really interesting, because somebody only asked me the other day around meditation. Well, is meditation learning to become the observer? And I said, well, yes, but that's only the start. Because
Hmm.
once you start to alter your state of consciousness, you can get beyond the self,
Hmm.
which is really hard. It sounds so mysterious when I say this, but it's true. You can get to a place where you get beyond your identity or who you've told yourself you think you are, and you're able
Yeah.
to almost see it from an expanded, neutral standpoint, where you're not your name, you're not your job, you're not your career, you're not your spouse, you're not your parent. You're just
Yeah.
the essence of you, right?
Mm. The consciousness that is thinking, that is creating that reality. You start to lean
Exactly.
into that, and it's like it's just it's redefining the self is the way I like to look at it. Is that, you know, you can identify with the self on a physical plane, a 3D reality, or you can expand, you know, into, you know, just this physical body. I am this body, or I am this culture, I am this tradition, or I am this gender, or I am this, you know, all these different things. And you can also, in that consciousness, those thoughts and that awareness, it expands beyond the body, beyond the physicality, beyond the perceptual reality of this landscape that we live in. And as you're sitting in that silence, you start to then open doorways into that expanded observation, awareness, and then the identity of self shifts from an individual to a larger perception, to a larger consciousness. And then you start to have it, you know, like in my meditation practices, using, like, for me, the sound allows me to quiet that mind and get into a mantra, and like a repetitive droning kind of frequency that shifts me into that ability to disidentify with the body. And I'm literally losing this kind of confined awareness in myself, that then opens me to, like, you know, as I'm breathing, the wind blows across my face and I'm breathing with the earth, and I'm, you know, as the sounds are coming out of my mouth, the birds are echoing it back, and it's like we become in harmony with, you know, the planet, with the world, with the wind, with the air, with the you know, the clouds, the sky, and so forth. And it's like this, it's as if my awareness then expands outside of my physicality, and that gives me
Mm,
opportunity then to relinquish the grasp that time has on me, and move me into this ability to then connect with all time and all space, where all consciousness exists. And as as we are there, as I am there, it's like then these thoughts drop in, or these ideas, or awarenesses come in that I don't know where they come from. They're not things that I would have thought of, and it's not stuff that I would know. And it's like And from that, then I kind of start to distill that down into an understanding of my ability to perceive reality here. And that then becomes a new expression of consciousness in the form that I am now. Does that make sense?
It does. It does to me. I don't know. Everyone else probably not.
I don't know. This is such a vast conversation, such a vast topic, you
It's
know?
brilliant. It's brilliant though. But if I was to even dumb it down into my Welsh filter, it's like because I've experienced it many times now, that when you get into
Yeah.
those altered states, you expand
Mm.
upon yourself, and there's a connection to I was only talking about this. I seem to be talking about this a lot, but
Yeah.
you can call it the quantum field, you can call it the unified field, you can call it
Mm.
the 0 point consciousness. Like every physicist I've spoken about that is identifying that there's this field of information that's beyond our current space and time reality. They're all
Mm.
talking about it, and once we start to connect with that, if that's all information, that I believe that information is starting to trickle through into us, and that inspiration comes from that. And it's
Yeah.
almost like being able to go find these states, learn a little bit more about yourself and who you are, and the greater essence of what it means to be human and what life is. And then you can pull these bits of treasure back, and you can start to bring that wisdom into your everyday life, because you're starting to view every single situation from a different level of mind than it was before the one that created it and created the problems in the first place. So you're
That's
able to
it.
start to bring wisdom and perceive every situation differently. Because, again, I don't know who said this, but this is what I believe: we only have control over three things, and that's perception, how we perceive the situation moment by moment, and the decisions we make off the way we perceive that situation moment by moment, and then the actions that are taken from the decisions and the way we perceive the situation in the first place. So
Mm.
if we want to have action, we want to make it inspired action.
That's
And
right.
that inspired action is going to keep leading us into more of that awareness of ourselves and who we are. And that's how we grow and learn. But if we're continually coming from not looking at the self in the first place, and continually, I guess, living from a state of fear, which is what we can kind of condition ourselves to do, we're never going to really tap into those inspired states on a regular basis, but more importantly, start acting upon them and following through from that. And
Yeah.
that's where the true growth comes. And I often think as well, that's why we have challenges in life as well. Because if we didn't have challenges, we would become comfortable. And if we become
Mm.
comfortable, everything just becomes atrophies and slowly dies off. Even though that's how we want it, we dream of nirvana to be in it, but it's just not realistic. Far
Mm.
from it.
Mm. Yeah, and with your progression there from perception to decision to action,
Yeah.
then and yeah, so if you're locked into a perceptual reality of the limited mind, of the fear-filled, separated mind, or waking consciousness, and then moving from there, then you're going to have contrived or manipulated or controlled actions that you're taking, not inspired action. And so it's like going to that source of that river is there in the perceptual component of the awareness. And so if you have an expanded awareness or understanding of self, then making decisions from that larger reference point, vantage point, then you can move from a place of inspired action.
Yes.
It's all starts there, and it's like it's fascinating to see like how much stuff is going on in the world, and how much we are challenged, and the dis-ease that's happening in all of us, and the anxiety, the stresses, all this depression and everything that's going on, and it's like we're trying to move around all these different things to make more actions and do more things to actually then change the way that we are feeling, and it's like, well, go back and come into yourself and start to feel into this expanse and like let go of this push to try and change the place that's already locked in, the conditioned self, and go into a place where you can actually come into a larger self and then allow that larger, expanded, more full whole place, then move through the decision making and the action. It's like it just seems like we've got it all backwards, and we're just trying to we're just laying more and more on the to-do list and the action and the overwhelm, and so just stop and just be and let it move you instead of you trying to move it. You know,
and that's pretty hard to do initially. You know, it can be kind of scary because we're always caught up that we must work hard, we must push harder to get from A to B and to get the results or whatever it is we want.
That's it. Yeah.
But then that fits back into what we were talking about at the very beginning about then if I'm doing that and if I'm running that, then I could be quite often, my actions could be just subconsciously just to fit in. So I'm then not judged by other people of how they perceive the way I'm living in the first place.
Yeah.
Just move to Byron Bay, everyone. It'll solve all your problems. That's all I can say.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but I've got one more point here, though, like, and you mentioned it earlier, and it's about a state of being, not doing.
A state of being, not doing.
Yeah.
I've got a knock at my door.
I can hear him.
What? Who's that? Nia, give me 5 more minutes, Bubba. It's right there by your feet. My daughter, my 5-year-old is teaching me about how. Bubba.
Come and say hello to Facebook.
Come say hello to Facebook. You want to be on the camera? No? We're going to hide.
No.
What do you got a hair clip here? Okay, let's put this in right here. Make it nice and pretty. What was the question again?
I don't even know.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to call it, mate, because
that's the
I
cue.
got this, and there's another knock at my front door, so it's all happening now. It looks like 1:30 was the cutoff. The universe is pulling me in different directions here.
Beautiful. Well, that was a great conversation. Thank you, my man.
Yeah, mate, that was great. I'll talk to you soon. I got to get hair clips for this one, and we'll be on our way. All right, cool, man.
Awesome. See you soon.
You say goodbye,
Thanks,
Nia?
guys. Bye-bye.